Have you ever found someone you thought was gone forever? My best friend Rachel disappeared when we were 13 after staying late at the library to finish a science project. Everyone searched for weeks and put up posters all over town. The police questioned everyone at school and checked every lead they could find. But after 3 months with no clues, people started to give up. Her parents moved away and teachers stopped mentioning her name. I was the only one who refused to forget. I kept her purple scrunchie in my jewelry box and her last birthday card on my mirror. Sometimes I'd walk past the library and wonder what would have happened if I'd stayed with her that day. By the time I turned 20, life had become work and community college, and trying not to think about the hole she left behind. I worked for a cleaning service to pay for my classes. Most days were pretty boring and involved scrubbing office bathrooms or tidying up rental properties. The job was simple enough, and the pay was decent for part-time work. My boss, Martha, was understanding about my school schedule and let me pick my shifts. One Thursday morning, Martha assigned me a new client named Mr. Hicks. He lived in an old blue house on Maple Street with overgrown hedges and peeling paint. The address seemed familiar, but I couldn't place why. When I knocked, a thin man in his 50s answered the door. He had gray hair and wore a brown sweater that looked too big for him. His eyes darted past me to the street before letting me in. "You must be from the cleaning service," he said with a nervous smile. "Please just clean the main floor today. I have important work upstairs that can't be disturbed." I nodded and brought in my supplies while he explained where everything was. The house smelled like old books and something chemical that made my nose itch. He pointed out the kitchen and living room before heading upstairs. His footsteps were heavy on the old wooden stairs. I noticed he locked the door behind him. I started in the kitchen, which was surprisingly neat for someone who needed a cleaning service. The refrigerator had multiple locks on it, which seemed strange. While I was wiping down the counters, I heard something that made me freeze. It was humming coming from somewhere below me. The tune was familiar in a way that made my chest tight. Rachel used to hum that exact song when she was concentrating on homework. I told myself I was being ridiculous and went back to cleaning. But the humming continued, soft and sad through the floorboards. My hands shook as I moved to the living room to dust the shelves. That's when I noticed the basement door had 3 different padlocks on it. Fresh scratch marks covered the wood near the handle. The humming stopped and started again, definitely coming from the basement. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I walked closer to the basement door and pressed my ear against the wood. The humming was clearer now, and there was something else too. The sound of chains moving against concrete. Then I heard a voice, weak but unmistakable. It was Rachel. My legs nearly gave out. I backed away from the door and tried to think clearly. Mr. Hicks was still upstairs in his study typing on his computer. I could hear the keyboard clicking. I pulled out my phone and typed a message to 911, explaining where I was and what I'd heard. The dispatcher texted back that units were on their way and told me to get out safely. I grabbed my supplies and headed for the front door as quietly as possible, but the typing upstairs suddenly stopped. I heard his chair scrape against the floor. His footsteps moved toward the stairs. Mr. Hicks appeared at the top of the stairs before I could leave. "Finished already?" he asked, and his smile looked different now. "Just remembered I have another appointment," I said, forcing my voice to sound normal. "I'll come back tomorrow to finish up." He started down the stairs, and I knew he could see I was lying. I dropped my supplies and ran out the door just as police sirens filled the air. 2 patrol cars pulled up as I reached the sidewalk. "She's in the basement," I told them, my whole body shaking. I heard her humming through the door. The officers rushed inside while I waited by their cars. More police arrived along with an ambulance. After what felt like hours, I saw them bring someone out on a stretcher. Even with tangled hair and pale skin, I knew it was Rachel. At the hospital, her parents hugged me and cried. When Rachel was stable enough for visitors, I sat beside her bed. She looked at me for a long moment before tears rolled down her face. She reached for my hand and held it tight. "I knew you'd find me," she whispered. I never stopped hoping. The 7 years in that basement had changed her in ways I'm still learning about. She struggles with crowds and loud noises and needs therapy twice a week, but she's alive and free and slowly learning to smile again. Sometimes I think about how we searched for years, and it was just ordinary luck that brought her home.